Okay, folks, so today we're going to try this Destiny app. It's a fun app basically. So this is an app where depending on the questions you answer, depending on your answer, you get to be taken to a different track. You know, like some of the movies where you can choose the climax of the movie based on what you want to do. So it's a fun app, but you know basically what it app does is that it gives you an option. So let's say you're in a scenario where your car has a blown tire and you're on a winding road in the middle of nowhere, and you get some guy, and you know a pickup truck stops, and you give him two options. So either you can hop in, or if the second option is you can ask him if he's a murderer. So let's say you hop in, you start driving with a stranger, and you've got two options again which come in. You see the options have changed here, so now you can either choose this option or this option, and let's say you choose this option, and then you get the end of the story. And likewise you can refresh, go back and follow a different path. If you want to try this path, you try this path, and again the button changes. You see this two options with you, and you can choose that as well, and keep refreshing and play this around. So this is a fun game, and let's try to build this app in our iOS app. So here's the app we're trying to create. Open your Xcode. So basically what it app does is that it's got a text here and it's got the top and bottom buttons. Open the Xcode project in destiny.xcode, and I'll keep a link to this project in the description folder. Once the project opens up, so the project has opened up. All right, so this is the project. All right, so just to give you a quick overview of the project, there are two parts to the project now. One is of course the main.storyboard, and then you have the view controller, and the way it is linked is the project. Hang on a second, let me just show you the format and the view controller, and let me remove this. Okay, so as you can see, this is the basic layout of the project. This is the UI element, this is the top button, this is the bottom buttons, and the way it is connected is that it's connected here through these outlets. Okay, so these are the three outlets where it's connected. Now I need to add one more button here, and I'm going to call it the refresh button. So what I'll do is I'll go to the button counter, or whatever it's called. I think it's called the buttons library or something. So this is the buttons counter, and I'm going to call it refresh here, and I'm going to change the color of that to white, and I'm going to tell you in a second why I'm doing this. Just hang on with me on this particular one. Okay, so I'm just going to make a couple of changes. So this is going to be bold for me because I like bold. Okay, I was supposed to show. Okay, so I've created this button here. Now basically what I want to do is that I want to connect this button to an outlet and an action. So I'm going to right click, drag it here and drop it here, and this is going to be an action, and I'm going to call it refresh button, and instead of any, I'll say UI button and say connect. So this is my button which is created. Now I'm also going to create an outlet here with the same button, and I'll call it refresh button again. How does it matter? Okay, so everything is done and this is done. Okay, so the reason I want to call this button out is because I want to, when the view is loading, I want to hide this button. So first thing first, I'm going to do is I'm going to call the property of the button. So the name of the button of course is refresh button, and Xcode has kindly provided me with that link, and I'm going to call its property is hidden where and I'm gonna say it's true. Okay, so when the app loads up, we don't see that button, and we see that button at the end of the show. So basically it's hidden here now, but we will show the button somewhere here, okay, at the end of the show. And when you click on the button, there are a few actions that I expect out of it. So that's done. What basically our app is looking like, this is the story of the app that we have, and we're going to connect that here. So what we want, the first thing we want to happen is that when we see this app load, we want this particular story to load up here, and we want this answer. I'll hop in and better ask him if he was a murderer or whatever. So the answer should change. So these element should also change, and this guy should also change. So it's very easy to do the first one. So let me do the first one. Go to view did load, go to story text.view.text, and there just simply put in the story number 1. STORY story 1. So our story 1 will get displayed here. Now I need to change the answer button property as well. So this is the answer button. Okay, and to do that I need to call my top buttons, and I can't change the UI just like that. I think I need to call some set property. I don't know what the property is, so I'll quickly go to the net, and I am going to open how to change text in an button. Okay, not just button, you got to call it how to change text in Swift iOS. Change. So we got some options here. I'll change the text of a button. When I click it, it gives me several options here, and I think the property, I'm just looking for the property. So it is sender.title something. So I'm assuming it's something got title, so I'm going to say set title, and here it's asking for a string, so obviously that's where my answer 1 is going to go, and here it's going to be one of those states, so it's normal state for me. And now I'm going to do the same thing for button bottom dot set title, and here I'm going to say answer 1b. okay, and it's going to be of type normal. Okay, so my button's pressed. Now let us see this app in action and see if it's going to run properly. So what I'm expecting is I'm seeing the text story here, and I'm seeing the first answer here and the second answer here. So when we run the app, we'll know and once we start doing that, we'll get to the next stage. Okay, just hang on with me, give me a second. Okay, so while it's loading, I want to quickly jump into the next action. So if I press the button, and what is my expected next step here, and what I want to do is I want to quickly see what my steps are here. So this is the flow of my story. So what I'm expected to do is that when the story moves on, I'm expected to, when answer 1 is pressed, I'm expected to go to story 3. Okay, and then if answer B is pressed, I'm expected to go to story 2. So I think that's first step that we have to achieve here. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to use a property of the button called button sender.tag. So what I will say is that if sender.tag equals 1, which is the top button, so you can check that sender.tag is the top button by clicking here, opening this particular option in Xcode. My Xcode is extremely slow today, and when you click here and you go to the tag, you will see that there is an option here called tag 1, and when I click here it becomes tag 2. Okay, so my app has loaded. and I'm going to keep the same app because I was just changing the device from iPhone 8 to iPhone 7, and this is the impact. It's really slow. Okay, I've got too many programs. Alright, so I'm getting this particular feature here. So it's saying your car was blown, car has a blown tire, so so it's the same thing. So basically we are good to go. So I'm going to go ahead with my next action, which is going to be, if I press this, what do I expect? If I press this, then my expected answer is that I need to go to story 3, and if I press this, I need to go to story 2. So before I do that, I need to create a state somewhere here, some kind of a variable which will track which place I'm in. Okay, so I'm going to say story, story, story number, and I'm going to give it a value of integer, and it's going to start with 1. So what I basically want to do is that when I start my story, I'm going to give it a value of story 1, and as I progress, I'm going to change it to next level. So story 1. So when I start off this entire process, first thing I want to say is that if sender tag is 1 and story story number is also equal to 1, then go ahead and do the following. So what I need to do is, so sender is pressed, I need to go and move to the next button. So basically my UI needs to change. So my UI is now story 1. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this entire thing from here, copy it and paste it here. So my UI is story 1. Now that has to move to story 3. Okay, and I'm changing this, checking this also. I need to move to story 3, and my answer needs to be 3A and 3B. Okay, so this has to be 3A and this has to be 3B. Okay, so we're now good to go. And why am I getting some errors? I think I probably missed a class somewhere here. Yes, I didn't close the bracket. This is very important. You need to close the brackets. Very important to close the brackets. So ideally always when you open the bracket, immediately close it. Okay, so I've done this. Now so let me just see. So if this is the case, else if sender tag equal to 2 and story number equal to 1, which means I'm still in the first page, then I will do this thing and I will go to story number 2 and answer number 2, and this one should be 2A. So this is the action. So I'm going to go to story 2, answer this and answer this. So we are good to go so far. Let's just see if it's working or not, because if it's not working we can pick bugs immediately. Okay, let's just see. I don't want this guy. Okay, that's the reason. I think I had 2 simulators running side by side. Okay, so if I click this, okay, it's going to the next one, and if I click this, it's going to the next one. So I'll fix that, but it's working. So I need to quit this entire simulator business. Okay, now so I'm going to the second button. What do I need to do now? Now once I go to this story and I'm in this particular story, then I need to display this or this. So else if sender dot tag is 1 and story number is 3, then Then what do I need to do? Then I need to give the user this particular option, which is 6 in this case, and I don't need to show him the buttons now. If he presses that, then I need to hide the buttons. So what I'll do is he needs to only see the story. So if he clicks that, then he needs to go to story 2, and my top buttons and bottom buttons need to go. So what I'll do is button dot is hidden becomes true. Okay, and bottom button also the same thing, is hidden becomes true, and I have to make it false later on in my refresh button. So when I do a calling here, I'll have to make it false. Okay, so let's just see what's happening here. So the sender is in tag 1, the sender is in tag 1 plus tag 1 and story number 3. Oh, okay, it's equal to so then I display the story. Else, if this guy is in just hang on with me, I'll tell you. I'm going to change things. Okay, so if he presses tab tag 2, same story, I'm going to change the story number. Okay, and everything else remains the same. So what I mean to say is that if he's in tab 3 and if he's in story 3, so let's just see it side by side so that'll be clear. So if this guy is in story 3, which is this, and he presses this tag, then I'll display this story. And if he's in story 3 and he presses this tag, which is tag 2, then I'll show you the story number 5. So that's how you do it, and let's run it. Okay, so build is succeeded. Come on, do it fast, quick. Oh, it's gonna take a loading time. Okay, so while it loads, now let me look at the second option. So what is the second option? Second option is story is 2, answer is 2, and answer is 2b. Now I'm in story 2, so this was already done here. We went to story 2 and then we showed him this button. Now let's say else if sender.tag is equal to 2 and story number is also equal to 2, then else if that's the case, then I need to go here and show him the next story, which is story number 4. Okay, and this is double equals. So I think our app is loaded now. Let's try the first one. So I hop in, I love Elton John, I click on that and nothing happens. Okay, so there is a bug in here, we'll have to fix that. Okay, so I figured the bug. Basically what I did was I was not changing the story number, so I need to do a change in the story number every time. So it was basically looping in an endless loop. So every time I do a change, I need to change the story number also. Story number is equal to 6 here, and here the story number is equal to 5. Now this will help me reference any story at any point in time from anywhere. story number is equal to 4. So we got so far so good. Now there's only one part which is pending, and I have to do that part as well. So let's just run and see if it's working. Okay, so if you say option number 1, it should go into the next one, and here I can choose either this or this. If I choose this, oh, I did not update the story here as well. Sorry, I need to start updating stories everywhere. Story number is equal to 3, and here the story number is actually 2. So this variable and this variable need to match, and my app is based on that. Okay, so if I go here, your car is blown, da 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 da, you know, you give him the option, I love Elton John, I click, he bonds with it, you bond with a murderer, you know, basically, and the button goes here. So you are in story 6 right now, and actually the refresh button should come, and then we'll figure that out later. But if we run the app again, and if we go through the other path, which is the path B, which is this, we need to see the story 5 there. So here I'm going to say hop in, and now I'm going to say it's me or him, and then I'm getting the next option, which is good. So this app is working, and now I am going to do one more thing here, which is going to be, I'm going to fix part A and part B. So I fixed part B, which is 2B. So this part I fixed, but we don't have a part for 2A. So 3B is fixed, 3A and 3B are fixed, 2A and 2B are fixed. So let me just say, so story number 2 and answer 2A, that should be a tag. So story number 2 and answer 2A. So here's story number 2 and answer 2 is tag 1. So I don't have an option for tag 1. So what I'm going to say is, and the good part is this particular part of the code is very similar to this particular part of the code. So I'm just going to say, if the story number is 1 or the story number is equal to 2, and if the tag is 1, then it goes to the same loop, because if you'd notice, this 3 and this 3 are same. So I don't need to write another line of code. So I don't need to write this code again. So this code is already done here. We've already done that code here. So we took care of that code here by writing story 3, and then we gave 2 buttons here, and then give a story number there, and from there we went into this story, this story, which was 6, and then we gave it 5. Okay, and in the case of story 2, we gave it a tag here, and from there we went directly into story 4. So we are pretty much done here. Let's see that app in action now. And I'm telling you, coding is real fun. It's really nice. You just need to learn it. It's like learning Chinese. It's a new language. Okay, so the second option is better ask a new question, and he notes slowly as well. So if I choose this, then it goes to loop 3. If I choose this, then the story ends. Now when the story ends, I can say I have to refresh. I can give the user an option to refresh the buttons. So what I'm going to say is, if story number equals 4 or story or story number equals 5 or story number equals 6, then I want a refresh action to take place. And what is the refresh action that I want to take place? That is, I want them to see the refresh button. So I'm going to create a refresh function here, and I haven't created the function, but I'm just writing the function name right away, and I will call the function here so first thing before I call the refresh button is okay, so I need to, so what is my refresh button going to do? It's going to call a function. I shouldn't have done this. And I want it to go to story number 1. Okay, and I want it to basically repeat all of these things. When the refresh button is pressed, I want to repeat all of these things. Okay, and I want the refresh button is so I need my user to see the refresh button as well, so I have to create that button somewhere. Okay, I don't have to call the function here, I just need to show him the button because my button action is already here. So I just need to show the user that the button is there, so he just clicks on the button and all these actions get action. So I just need to call that refresh button function in this particular outlet here. So I'll call this function here, I'll keep this function outside, and I just need to see what are the things that I need to hide. So refresh button, which was hidden, is going to be hidden the moment I click this. Story number 1, story view goes to number 1, answer title shows, and answer title shows. Okay, so let's just run this code now and see what happens. Okay. So here I'm going the first option, and when I'm done with the first option, I click the refresh button, it comes back, but my buttons are not seen, which means my buttons have to be shown again, and I have to do that here, and I'm going to do it here because my buttons need to be seen. Okay, so I was missing that part here. And I don't need to have so much lines of code here, so I just can take this entire part of code, which is basically the first half of this guy, and replace it with my function. And if I now run it, let me also run it in a big screen of iPhone 8. So so if this action comes, my story number gets refreshed to number 1 again, my refresh button becomes true, so it's hidden again, and the user is able to go to the story 1. He can click this, and the top button which was hidden becomes false again, which means that he goes into this action. Okay, and then the loop continues, so he can do all these things, and we'll remove all these things. We don't need all of this thing. These are all just, you know, white space in my mind. Basically, we don't need any of these. We don't need any of these. So always try to keep your code as short as possible. Okay, I think my app should have loaded. Okay, it's loaded. So I go on the first route. So I'm just going to look at it from a route point of view, right? And I'm going to say story 1. So I'm in story 1 now. I press answer 1A, which is this. Then I go to story 3, which is this guy. And from there I've got this option. If I click this and story ends, I go to story 6 and I get a refresh button here. So I refresh it again. I think my app has not got loaded. I think my app did not load properly, because I was pretty sure that the code is working fine. So let's rerun the app. This is the funny part, because app rerun is a bit of a task. So this is the good parts about this code that I wanted to sort of tell you is that you learned about tags. Okay, so you use these tags. You also learned about this property of the code, which is called top button set title, and this is a new property. So you can change the text value of this particular guy. Okay, and you can hide this guy also if you want to, and you can play around with this. You have a loop, and depending on the loop you can change the value. So it's a simple app, but it's not really simple. It's a little complicated because of the nuances that it has built into the app. There are loops which are there in the app which one needs to be aware of. Okay, so my app is finally loaded. So it's working fine. There's no issues with the app. So if I click here, I get this particular first message, which is this story: your car has a blown tire on a winding road in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone reception. You decide to hitchhike. A rusty pickup truck rumbles to a stop next to you. A man with a wide brimmed hat and with soulless eyes opens the passenger door for you and asks, "Need a ride, boy?" So you got two options. You say, "I'll hop in, thanks for the help," or you say, better ask him if he's a murderer first. So you say, okay, better ask him if he's a murderer. He nods slowly, unfazed by the question. So you got two choices where you can say that I don't need to go with him. So I'll say, wait, I know how to change a tire. And say, what? Such a cop out? Did you know traffic accidents are the second leading cause of accidental deaths for most adult age groups? So that was one option. Now if you say, you better ask him for the murderer, if he nods his head, and if you say yes, then it goes back to the loop again, and it says, as you begin to drive, the stranger starts talking about his relationship with the mother. He gets angrier and angrier by the minute. He asks you to open the glove box. Inside you find a bloody knife and two severed fingers with a cassette tape of Elton John. He reaches to the glove box, and you got two options: I love Elton John, hand him the cassette tape, or it's him or me, take your knife and stab him. So you can take a knife and stab him, and if you do that, as you smash through the guard lines and the careen towards the jagged rocks below you, you reflect on the dubious wisdom of stabbing someone while they are driving a car that you are in. So that was option number two. And if you actually loved Elton John, then you bond with the murderer while crooning verses of "Can you feel the love tonight?" He drops you off at the next town. Before you go, he asks you if you know any good places to dump bodies, and you reply, "Try the pier." So that's our story. We go back. So we're done. This was the code, and great stuff having you here. Have a great day. Goodbye.